I did a few things in between my last video and this one. Namely, I'm adding 2 subscribers. As you can see here, I have sub A and sub B. And the little warning on the screen tells me that I need to have them added to the publisher before I can move forward here. So I already did that. And I'll hit no for that. But now I just need to put in the publisher's information. Very similar to what we did for item and presence. But this time it's for the subscribers, the CUCM subscribers. So just wanted to give that heads up that I now have 3 CUCMs in my HQ cluster. I'm now logged into my publisher and I'm going to navigate to navigation over here and drop down to Cisco Unified Serviceability and click Go. And the reason I'm going over here is to make sure that all my services are activated. So in a lab environment, what I do is I just go to service activation, select my different servers, and then I check all services. I just get them all activated. And then I'll go to my subscriber and I'll do the same on those, but I'll pause the recording while I get that done. I've now activated all the services for my publisher, my 2 subscribers, and my IM and presence as well. A note that I want to make here is that I never did the UCCX installation just yet. I highly recommend, if you're going to be going for the CCIE, I highly recommend installing the UCCX before activating any of these services. The reason I say that is because you want to have all of your applications installed without really doing any of the configuration before taking your snapshots. So if I were going for the CCIE right now, I wouldn't have done what I just did. I would have moved on to installing UCCX. However, for me right now, I'm studying for the Collaboration Core exam, so I just want to go ahead and get things started. I'm not too concerned about the UCCX right now. Another thing I like to do in my lab environments is go into Trace and do troubleshooting trace settings. Then I select any of my nodes and I hit check all services on all nodes. Then I click save. This is just so that I have decent logging enabled across my cluster. In case any sort of issue happens, I can just jump in and look at what it was. Now I'll move back to my CM administration page and I'll go under device settings, and we'll go to common phone profile. This is the default one, but there's certain things that I like to have enabled in my lab environments because if I have to troubleshoot for any reason, these settings are going to help. One of the first things I want to do, which is a relatively new feature, is I want to go to the log profile and I want to keep it with the preset, but I'm going to enable telephony as well, SIP, UI, network, media. I'll do accessory as well. I'm not doing anything with VPN. If you're doing anything with MRA, you'll want that. So I'll leave it just like that. Web access is definitely something I want to have enabled. SSH access as well. And then with the SSH access, we need to go up to where it says shell and set it. I set this to debug. That's because there's 2 different logins you have to do. And the default credentials for one of those logins is debug. So to make it simple, I just put it debug here. That way when people are prompted with the second set, they just think, okay, why do I have to log in again? No, well, let me just try debug. And they have the right credentials for that. Now let's think. We enabled SSH, we enabled web access, we enabled the logging profile. Something that we haven't enabled yet is console access, which some people might be thinking, what do you mean console access? Phones don't have console ports. Yes, they do. Here's a video up in the corner that I did a while back where if you take a look through that, I show you how to make a console port for the phone and how to use it to log into the phone's shell, which is useful when your phone doesn't have network connectivity, but you have to get logs from it. It's also useful if you're troubleshooting an issue where the phone is fully rebooting. In those scenarios, you won't be able to maintain your SSH connection to the terminal. However, the console port will stick around, allowing you to get any of the logs that occur when the phone goes through a power cycle. I'll click Save to make sure that we keep our settings. And then I don't need to do an apply config, but that's because I don't have any devices registered right now. Here it lets us know that we have credentials for SSH/web and that it's advisable to have the TFTP encrypted config checkbox under the phone security profile, which would be here. The reason why is because these credentials, even though it doesn't show in the web interface, it's going to show in the config file of the phone. Now there's two more things that I like to do in lab environments. I go under System, Enterprise Parameters. Then I go to Enable Dependency Records, and I set that to True. We're going to get a pop-up. It's fine about the high CPU usage, but that's because I'm going to be doing this in a lab. I do know that there's some customers out there that do this in production. As someone who does a lot of troubleshooting, I really appreciate that setting being turned on, and I'll show you why later. It really just lets us see what associations there are to anything in the system. Partitions, call and search spaces, route patterns, route lists, devices, users, whatever it is, we can see the database associations in the GUI. Now we can scroll down to where we see these URLs. I'm going to copy this URL and paste it into the secure authentication URL. The reason I'm doing that is because when I want to browse to a phone's web interface, it just makes it so much easier if I have the non-secure URL in the position of the secure authentication URL. Remember, I'm doing this for a lab environment. What I just did is less secure, so you may not want to do it in production. Please keep in mind that whatever I'm doing in these videos is in a lab environment. Now I'll just click Save. With these settings in place, I'm going to go take another snapshot. I'm going to take multiple snapshots throughout this entire video series. That's because if I ever want to revert back to before I deployed something and go back through it, like let's say if I do extension mobility, what if 3 months from now I want to go and do extension mobility again? I can revert to the snapshot I took before doing extension mobility, and then I can run through it. Rather than recording myself taking the snapshots, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'll end this video here, but in the next one, we'll really start diving into doing some of the baseline configurations like adding regions, locations, device pools, etc. Hopefully in this video, you saw something that you would like to do in your own home lab, or at least something of value, and I'll see you in the next video.